This week on Painting Lines.
People are always going to be like, oh, he's not the GOAT because he's not as respectful as Federer. And it's like, yeah, well, people also didn't go to Federer matches and boo him constantly.
I don't know. I feel like his little outburst against the ref, it kind of made me look at him differently.
Welcome to the Painting Lines podcast, your one-stop shop for all things tennis. Join Erik and Aidan in their discussion for updates on news and pop culture, and from hot takes to betting, they've got you covered.
Ready?
Welcome back to Painting Lines. The grass season has officially come to a close in Europe, but there still is one more grass tournament in the US. And last week we discussed the first half of Wimbledon, and this week we'll be breaking down the second half. So, Aidan, why don't you start us off with a high of the tournament and a low of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, a personal low for me in this tournament was when Deminar had to pull out because he'd been playing so well in the tournament and had been having a very solid grass season overall. And honestly, would have been kind of the first real test for Djokovic in this tournament because when you look at it in the end, Djokovic didn't have to play a top 15 really guy until the final. I mean, he played Runa, but Runa was seeded at 15. And it wasn't really a close match there. And it's like you look at this run he had, and it's like, well, we know he wasn't 100% healthy. Maybe that showed up in the final, but should he have lost earlier if he didn't get kind of really lucky with his draw? It's tough to say, but overall, I think it was just a bummer that Deminar had to pull out here. And then I guess a high for me was Medvedev beating Sinner in the quarterfinal, which we were kind of previewing last week, and it lived up to the hype of the match. It was a great match, went 5 sets, and it really felt like Sinner was kind of cruising in the tournament. And then Medvedev, who had looked so lost against him in their last couple matchups, especially in Miami, it's good to see him kind of come back and adjust to how he needed to play Sinner.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that your high of the week was my bet of the week missing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
But hey, let's just jump into the quarters, and why don't we discuss Medvedev Center, because to me this was the biggest shock of the tournament. Like we said 5 times in a row before, he basically owned Medvedev, and then we get this.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy. I think the wildest part about this is that this is kind of the biggest shock of the tournament. And it kind of shows how far Sinner has separated himself so quickly. Like, it was shocking to see him lose to a guy that is a Grand Slam champion and is top 5 in the world. And it also kind of shows that this tournament was really absent of a lot of shocks. Like, a lot of the top guys weren't losing. And if they were losing, it was a guy that we were like, it's really actually not that shocking for them to lose. Like someone like Tsitsipas or someone like Runa, or not Runa, or Rude to lose early is not super shocking because they're not good on grass. But for Sinner to lose, it was a major shock, even though he was losing to a guy that was a great player, or that is a great player.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest shock was the Italian in the semis was not Sinner, it was Musetti. Like who
Exactly.
who would have thought that in the beginning of the tournament? But there were rumors that Sinner may have been sick during the match just because his girlfriend had to pull out of her match due to an illness. So I feel like you can kind of see that in the match as far as the exhaustion. Like he didn't look his best. So I wonder if the illness had anything to do with it. I mean, you can't completely rule it out.
Yeah, you definitely can't rule it out. I mean, I feel like that is all speculation, though, unless Sinner said something about being
It
sick.
is. It
But
is all speculation for sure. And it just kind of makes you think too, if his girlfriend was the reason why he lost this match, it would be like the epitome of girls are distraction. I don't need a girlfriend. And his coach is
yeah,
probably like, hey man, don't be kissing your girlfriend before the US Open
he's
now.
like he's like Tsitsipas, you've taught me the wrong way to do this.
Oh damn, Sitsi.
Yeah.
Sitsi.
Uh,
All right. Next quarter, we have Alcaraz and Paul. I don't know.
yeah.
This match looked, yeah, it looked promising because Tommy took the first set, but then Alcaraz is that guy who, he dropped the first set against Tiafo, and he was pushed to a first set tiebreaker against Vukic. So I feel like you can't really judge the outcome of the match, especially in an Alcaraz match, just based off the first set.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a guy that you're not shocked when he's able to come back into the match. It was a bummer for me because it was my bet of the week and it looked like it might be going my way, but I think it just wasn't Tommy's day, and like it really has to be him playing at his highest level for him to win a match against Alcaraz.
Yeah, did you look to cash out the bet after the first set or no?
No, no.
No. Yeah, probably would have won like 20% of your money
Maybe,
or
maybe.
20% profit of your money.
Yeah. I don't know.
Um,
It you got to just go with your bet
you
all
ride
the
it
way, right?
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it's nice to check it and just, they say you can't go broke making money. So sometimes you have to cash out the bets. Um, anyway, how about Musetti and Fritz?
Oh, that match, it was just such a bummer for like the American players. Like this was such a great chance for Fritz to make a Grand Slam semifinal. And I don't want to like degrade Musetti's ability because he's a great player, but he definitely is one of the easier matchups that was in the quarterfinals there. And it's just a bummer that Fritz wasn't able to seize that chance against a guy that I feel like most of the time he does beat.
Yeah, I know. I was pretty surprised too. And I didn't get to watch the full match, but after the fourth set, I was like, all right, here we go. Because it was pretty rocky back and forth. And then fifth set, it was just kind of a last ditch effort that didn't really pay off.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about it a little bit more in my match of the week,
Hmm.
but it is weird when you do see a guy win that fourth set and then just get clobbered in that fifth. And it's like you kind of wonder about whether that was a strategic move by his opponent, like taking their foot off the gas a little bit in the fourth, only to step it up in that fifth set.
Yeah, like you're gonna lose the fourth, so don't exert all your energy.
Exactly, exactly.
All right. Well, speaking of conserving energy, how about Djokovic easing into the semis?
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah.
bummer. Deminar had to pull out there, and I just feel like it was such a great opportunity for Deminar, and it just made us see Djokovic, and it was like, oh, Djokovic is he's gonna make the final. He beats Musetti. It's like, what's gonna happen here? And it's like I feel like I said earlier, we didn't really get to see Djokovic tested until the final.
Yeah. And even Djokovic aside, I feel like if Deminar had the opportunity to play Djokovic, just based off the way Alcaraz played Djokovic in the final, I feel like Deminar could have hung around in longer rallies and basically, tired Djokovic out because you saw how much Djokovic was coming to the net trying to end these points early. And I feel like there could have been a good matchup against Deminar, and he could have been in his first slam final.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. I think
mhm.
that's a good point. Is like, do you take Deminar over Musetti? Probably. And it's
Yeah.
like he had a great chance to beat Djokovic if he'd been able to play. And playing Musetti is not the toughest opponent to see in the semis. I think that would have been a much more, in my opinion, fun matchup to see Deminar versus Alcaraz in the final versus an injured Djokovic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. An injured Djokovic.
I mean, a
Yeah,
recovering
not
Djokovic,
not a
let's
hundred
say.
percent, not a
Yeah.
hundred percent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this goes back to what we talked about last week. Injuries. It's unfortunate because Deminar's injury happened. I'm pretty sure on one of the last points of his last match too. Like it was right there near the end, and it just goes to show how unforgiving these grass courts are on the body.
100%.
Yeah.
But anyway, should we move on to the semis here?
Yeah, let's get into the semis. I mean, we kind of touched on this. Djokovic cruised through Musetti, handled business in straight sets. What more is there to say here?
Yeah, I mean, we've already mentioned it. It just was like the epitome of his entire run, like just not having to face the toughest opponents in any of his rounds.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But on the other side, Alcaraz avenged his U.S. Open semifinal defeat against Medvedev. This was funny because I remember I was rooting for Medvedev in the U.S. Open, but I was going with Alcaraz this time just because I kind of wanted to see him defend his Wimbledon title. And he had beaten Medvedev in the semis last year in Wimbledon too.
Huh. I mean, I had a that surprised me. I thought you said you wanted to win. I thought you said last week you wanted Medvedev to win the whole thing.
I did, but I don't know. I feel like his little outburst against the ref, it kind of made me look at him differently.
Okay.
We'll touch on that later, but I don't like that
Mm.
how he
Yeah,
handled
my
himself.
question after this match is kind of like you see Medvedev lose to the eventual champion 2 years in a row at Wimbledon, and it makes you think like, was Medvedev the second best player at Wimbledon for the past 2 years, or has it actually been Djokovic? I think last year
Ooh.
you say it is Djokovic because of how close that final was, but this year it's like they went to 4 sets. I mean, it wasn't the closest match, but he did take a set off of him at least, and it's like, was he the second best player? I guess you can never really make that argument because then you could be like, oh, was Tiafoe the second best player? There's so many other things, but the fact that he made the semifinal 2 years in a row does make it. It's got to be mentioned about his grass court level.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and it does make you think because I feel like when you mention him versus Tiafoe, like he has a much better argument than Tiafoe, and Medvedev just so much more consistent. But so, what do you think going into the U.S. Open with Djokovic kind of proving that he's not at the same level as the top guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see what happened. I mean, last year, uh, Djokovic came out after Wimbledon and beat Alcaraz in the match of the year last year, in my opinion, at that Cincinnati final, and showed, hey, I'm still here. But
Mm.
really, like last year was a completely different year than this year. It's Djokovic is still titleless this year, and we'll see what happens after this loss. But I mean, let's look to the Olympics. What's going to happen there? That's going to be a big comment for how Djokovic feels. Is Djokovic like, if Djokovic loses the Olympics, it's like, does he just retire there, like out of nowhere? Like, what is he going to wait another 4 years try to win the Olympics?
Yeah.
41. Like, there's he's like you look at his career and you're like, there's nothing left for him to accomplish other than the Olympics right now. And it's like, if he loses that, like what is driving him?
It kind of makes you wonder if Djokovic should have even played Wimbledon or if he should have just taken the time off to prepare for the Olympics. But I feel like he got the best case scenario. He had a very easy draw, kind of cruised into the final. And for him, this was better than not playing at all. Like, I don't know if you kind of saw his expressions there, but he was never he was never like showing as much emotion as he was previously. Like he was smiling during the match as he was losing. Like kind of figured he was going to lose probably, and wasn't devastated after the match. And I just feel like that's kind of like to him this was a good result. He's like, hey, I came in no preparation, basically made it to the finals of Wimbledon. I wasn't even supposed to play in this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, also I think the positive is that, like, with how kind of poor his season has been going to this point, it does give him a bunch of points that can contribute to him still playing in like the tour finals at the end of the year.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this is pretty funny. This is probably the only time I'll root for Alcaraz against Djokovic was because I had a comment on one of our posts that said Djokovic will never win a Grand Slam title again, and I needed to back that up. And
Yeah.
now it's looking even better. All those people that have commented on it, I was like, how about now?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was waiting to do that.
Yeah, but this final, I mean, it was just Alcaraz being too high of a level. I mean, I think that first game even just set the tone for the match where Djokovic was just struggling so much to hold his serve, and then Alcaraz ended up breaking it anyway. And I remember a commentator saying, I think during the match or maybe before the match, grass actually may be Alcaraz's best surface, which I think surprised a lot of people. A lot of people probably would think clay, but I mean, you look at how well Alcaraz has done. He's now won 2 Wimbledon. He hasn't done that at any other slam, and he has won Queen's Club. And it's like, you look at his results, it's tough to argue against that comment.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a funny thing. Is he just that good of a player? Because other people don't play as well on grass as they do clay. So maybe he's the same level, but people are playing worse on grass. That's one way,
Well,
but that would still make him better.
wouldn't that make it like still
His
his
best
best
surface.
surface? Like,
Yeah, like I don't think he does anything
Because it would be like the
crazier on
separation,
it.
really, what you're talking about. It's
The
like if he's
separation.
more separated compared to other players, that would mean that it's his best
Mhm.
surface. It's like, yeah, if we all play on mud all of a sudden and I'm able to maintain my level and everyone else just doesn't know how to hit a ball on a muddy court, it's like, yeah, mud is my best surface because I'm just way better than everyone else. If I'm an incredibly good hard court player, but everybody's used to playing on that, and so I'm like at the same level of everybody, you wouldn't say that's my best surface.
Yeah, I mean, to make another argument though, it could be that clay is your best service. Like you play the best on clay, maybe as far as like constructing points or playing your style. And it just so happens that you play really well on grass too, but people don't like there are better grass players. I don't know. I feel like we're just kind of going in circles here, but
Yeah, I think it's
at the
all
end of the day,
definition type of thing.
yes, at the end of the day, it very well could be his best surface. And I agree with that.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, so that's the final. I mean, Alcaraz just clobbered him. Was there any other notable things from this tournament you think we should mention here?
Yeah, I thought something that was pretty funny was Djokovic's post-match press conference against when he after he played Runa, when he was talking to the crowd and he was pissed. Like everyone was shouting like Rune during the match, and he kind of took it as they were booing him. And this is what I love about Djokovic. He's not afraid to clap back. And he's like to all those fans, have a good night, like goodbye. Totally schooled them. And then he like went into just deep um if you're not here to respect the game, like you can't touch me. All just kind of stuff about, not really being too nice to the crowd because they weren't too nice to him. But then again, he went on to say, the people that who are there, who are paying for their tickets and being respectful, like thank you.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's like it's such a weird scenario for Djokovic because in his entire career, people are always going to be like, "Oh, he's not the GOAT because he's not as respectful as Federer." And it's like, yeah, well, people also didn't go to Federer matches and boo him constantly.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of one of those vicious cycles where people boo Djokovic, he responds, people say he's disrespectful, and then because they don't like him, they then go and they boo him again. And it's like, yeah, sometimes like you think, okay, maybe if he turned the other cheek one time, then he wouldn't have had this scenario. But it's like I think I think it's a weird thing that people are going to hold this against Djokovic like, oh, he's not as respectful or classy as other guys. It's like, yeah, well, he other guys don't have to deal with the same stuff that he does.
I agree. I think it's a lose-lose for him. Like whatever he says, he's going to get criticized in the media.
Yeah, 100%, especially because of how good he is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Another thing, Murray retired this tournament. That was pretty sad to see. Um, he lost in doubles with his brother Jamie, and he was actually supposed to play mixed doubles with Raducanu, but she had pulled out. And I thought this was funny. Andy Murray's mom like tweeted astonishing on the injury post that was tweeted about Raducanu. So I think that's her kind of taking a little dig at Raducanu, like, really, you're not going to play in my son's last or what could be his last ever Wimbledon match?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of insane to me. I
Astonishing.
mean, I think the funny part about it was like Raducanu was like, "Oh, I gotta focus on my singles run," and then like lost the next match. It's like it's kind of like what Sam Querrey says, like unless you're really like a top contender, or like it's kind of the opposite. It's like she's seeing it as like, "Oh, I gotta focus on myself" because she thinks she's a top contender, but it's like, is she really?
Yeah.
Probably not. But I mean, I don't want to go too aggressive against her. I do think though it's sad to see him retire from Wimbledon, but he is, I think, still playing in the Olympics, right?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I meant retire Wimbledon.
Yeah. But yeah, either way, I mean, just sad to see him go. Great career, but so many what ifs with his career. I mean, he was so close so many times.
Yep, yep. Well, moving on to what I alluded to earlier about Medvedev shouting you to the ref. Yeah, so he received an unsportsmanlike conduct for this when and he was allowed to remain in the match. Whereas remember a few months ago, Rublev that whole situation where he was disqualified and he didn't blatantly say "fuck you" to the ref. And so this kind of makes me think that there's a little inconsistency here. Like, why was Medvedev allowed to say that and Rublev's not? And you know, that aside, I feel like Medvedev needs to control himself. He can't be saying that to a referee.
Yeah, I think
Either way.
honestly, the entire thing came down to the size of the match and just the whole stage. Because it's like if Medvedev gets thrown out of the match in the first set of a Wimbledon semifinal, it's like such a massive deal.
Mhm.
And it is like all these people that came to watch don't only get to watch one set. Uh, the tournament has all this negative press about it for throwing him out. Even if they were in the right to throw him out, they would have gotten
Mhm.
negative press about it. And so he kind of gets an exemption, whereas Rublev, it's like much smaller tournament, much less of a crowd, much less of a financial sort of burden of him getting thrown out.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I actually didn't even really take that too much into consideration, but I mean, like you said, it was probably just a subjective call from the supervisor because the supervisor did come out and he's probably thinking like, "Shit, I can't disqualify him."
Yeah,
No
no, I
way.
mean,
It's
you think about it,
semifinals of
like you
Wimbledon.
throw him out in the
Yeah.
semifinal of Wimbledon. Just think about the TV aspect.
Yeah.
What do they do for their next 2 hours that they had planned of coverage? Do they just have people talk about it for 2 hours until the next match starts? I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. Money's on the line. Ad sales, like um ticket, drink, food revenue, all that.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
all right. Next on the list of high notable things I kind of noticed was the very high production quality from Wimbledon. I don't know if you noticed during the finals, they had these like 30-second videos. One was like on the groundskeeper, talking about maintaining the grass throughout the whole tournament, like keeping it alive, what to do during rain delays. And then the strawberry farmer, where, apparently over 1.9 million strawberries are consumed at Wimbledon. So it was like a informational hype video that was just sick to have a nice little break in between tennis instead of a like raunchy commercial.
Yeah, I just trying to sell you a Whopper.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
think it's nice to have those things in there. It's just like Wimbledon selling ads to themselves.
yeah, yeah. No, exactly. They're, taking up space that is more informational, beneficial to the consumer, to the people watching. So I appreciate that. Big pat on the back. Plus, it's so soothing listening to a British voice with hype music in the background and sick footage.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. And then the last thing is just the amount or the tickets to the final broke the record for the most expensive costs for a sporting event
I
ever.
did see that. Yeah,
Over
pretty
over
insane, and it
10,000.
makes sense, to be honest. Like when you look at how good of a match it was last year, who the players are, and like it was kind of the perfect storm for Wimbledon in terms of who ended up being in the final. Wasn't the greatest match, but the build up was perfect for them in terms of generating such expensive tickets.
Oh yeah, I know. Do you think they got their money's worth?
The people that were at the final,
Oh
no,
yeah.
I do
No.
not.
Yeah, well, at least they got their extra 15 minutes because Djokovic was able to come back from 40 love in the third set, uh, break
Yeah,
back, tie it up,
that was the
force
only
it.
like crazy part of the match. Was it was like Alcaraz dominating the entire thing, serves for the match, and then all of a sudden it's like Djokovic breaks back out of nowhere. You're like, what just happened? And then still loses like 15 minutes later, like you said. But yeah, it was exciting for those few minutes there.
I know. I feel like at that point, I was telling myself, I was telling the people around me, like Djokovic is winning this match.
Yeah,
This, and I was sitting outside too in the sun, at this watch party, and it was like 93 degrees. Everyone there was just like, "Oh, come on!" They were so pissed that Djokovic broke back. They're like, "We really don't want to be here another 2 hours."
yeah, exactly. But anyway, you ready to hop into segments?
Yeah, let's do it. what's new in tennis? I found something very interesting. So, Nikolai Bukov Pierre. I don't think I'm saying this right, and this is very disappointing because I'm a fellow Norwegian, or at least half Norwegian. But anyway, this guy, Nikolai, was the first Norwegian man to win a slam title in any regard. So this was boys Wimbledon. So he's the first to win boys or men's. Just basically
Okay.
any Grand Slam title. The kid's only 17 years old, and there's really like not a whole lot on him. Like I was scouring the internet to try to find something, and the ATP website doesn't even have his most up-to-date ranking. His ranking's like 744 from June. But anyway, Casper Ruud tweeted like how good this is for Norwegian tennis and blah blah blah. And I just thought it was funny because this should have been Casper Ruud, but he's 0-3 in slam finals.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it really counts like anywhere close to the same. That's like being like, oh my God, Tommy Paul, first American to win the French Open since Agassi or whatever. It's
No,
like,
not first man, first boy.
yeah, first. It's like I get it that it's a big deal. It's cool for Nikolai to win that, but
Mhm.
it's not like it's like saying it's like winning a slam title. I think is kind of a
It's a
overstate.
stretch.
Yeah.
But I think the irony we can find in this is that a Norwegian won on grass, whereas Casper Ruud is basically non-existent on grass.
Yeah. I mean, then again, like I brought up Tommy Paul, like you could say the same thing about American winning on clay, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Hopefully it's not a fluke. I'd love to see another Norwegian Viking over there on the tour.
Mm.
What'd you see this week?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I saw this week is like I just wanted to bring up something about the Olympics because it's obviously coming up, and there are like a few players I wanted to mention that just aren't going to be playing. So guys like Dimitrov, Rublev, and Hachinov, and then Shelton and Korda. So 5 of the top 25 players aren't going to be playing in this tournament.
Mhm.
And I think to an extent, it's a combination of like a weird quality system and a lack of points from the tournament. Because for Dimitrov, the reason he can't play is because there's like you have to play in the Davis Cup or something to qualify. I don't really know how it works. I thought it was purely based on ranking,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's a weird thing to me. But also, like for guys like Rublev and Hachinov, it's like Hachinov was the silver medalist last time. And I think to an extent, people just don't care about it because there's no points involved. And I wonder, like, I know it is weird to try to add points to this because it only happens once every 4 years, but I feel like they should do something with the points because it just disincentivizes guys to play in it because the season's already so long. And it's a weird thing to me that you have 5 of the top 25 guys not going to play in this tournament that's supposed to be almost like a slam in terms of its size.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think we should incentivize it like as far as points. I think this is players purely playing for their country. So if they don't want to play for their country, if they want to take time off because it doesn't benefit them personally, go be it. I'd rather take someone who's passionate and wants to play and put it out there on the line, right?
Okay.
This is an amateur aspect, the Olympics. It's not,
Yeah. I
purely
mean,
it's not individualistic. The point is to be a collective society
yeah. I don't know
here.
if the Olympics is really amateur though anymore. Like
I know.
every single
I
sport is
know.
using professional athletes,
I know. This is kind
except
of
for
like
like what, like equestrian, because there's no professional. I mean, I don't know if maybe there
yeah.
is a professional level in
Yeah.
whatever dressage.
I know. No, this kind of reminds me of college football, right? Like when players were playing purely for their college and now it's basically
So now it's a professional sport, really.
professional, they're getting paid. So
Yeah.
it's like you don't have any loyalty to your school. You transfer every single year if you have to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like how they say people can make the most money by like changing jobs every X amount of time. It's like college players are going to be like every two, like transfer 3 times in their college career so they get paid more money.
Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy, crazy stuff. But also in other news, A little shout out to Opelka because he's back playing Rhode Island.
Oh, okay.
First time seeing him in I think over a year.
Solid. Solid.
I
Good luck.
know.
Good luck to
I
him.
know. Um,
How about bet of the week? What'd you go for this week?
I'm taking Nakashima minus 1.5 sets over Emilio Nava at minus 150. So he's minus 500 money line, Nakashima is. So I'm betting that he basically wins it in 2 sets. That I feel like there's really not much to say on this one. You know, Nakashima's been playing well on grass. I don't really know Emilio Nava that well. I feel like this is just a classic case of the better player will prevail, and I'm kind of juicing the odds a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always bold to go for the under on
The sets.
the sets because you never know. A guy, I think anybody at any level, like on the professional tour, can take a set. So we'll see
Mhm.
what happens there. But he is the big favorite, so I understand. I understand the pick.
Yeah. How about you? Who are you going with this week?
I'm going with the Hungarian headhunter Fabian Morojan. He's plus
Boom.
190 over Runa in Hamburg.
Oh,
So I just think he gets it done. I mean, he absolutely clobbered Runa when they played in Miami, and he's had some big wins on clay before. So I think this is a situation where he's going to show up, and even though he is the underdog, it's going to be like, okay, is he really the underdog? And I think he beats him. I don't know about handedly, but I think he gets it done.
yeah. So you think the headhunter gets a Runa scalp? Let's
Yeah, a
go.
second Runa scalp.
A second Runa scalp. Yeah, no, that's true. It's funny how Europe they just go immediately back to clay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it
Like
makes sense. I think going to grass is a wrong decision. I think it's better to play in Hamburg and have a warm up tournament or play in
before the
Bastad
Olympics.
or somewhere like that. Whereas going back and playing another grass tournament is going to be like, yeah, maybe you do well on grass and then you have to have like just a week less of training for clay.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I mean, it's pretty much Americans in Newport, and
Yeah.
then obviously Manarino, the
Yeah,
defending
exactly.
champ.
Yeah. How about match of the week?
Medvedev Sinner. This was part of my bet of the week that did not hit. So I'm like I said, I'm glad that you found so much comfort in that earlier in the episode. But this was pretty funny. I saw this connection. So Medi double faulted to lose the first set tiebreaker, but then came back the second set and found an ace to win that. And I feel like it's just a classic case of whatever goes around comes around. But overall, the match had long rallies. Both were really good movers, so I felt like the points were extremely fun and entertaining to watch. I did think Sinner looked physically exhausted and kind of faded off in that fifth set, but he still had these spurts of energy where he would make points entertaining. It just I feel like the score didn't really reflect the quality of the points in the last set. Like there was a lot of deuce and close points, but it's what Medvedev does best, man. He just wears down his opponent, and he seemed to do it pretty well against Sinner here.
Yeah, I mean, what did Federer say in that speech? It's like you can win 80% of your matches and only win 54% of the points. So it's
Yeah,
like when you look at that match, it's like, oh, it was 5 sets. Oh, it was super close. We went to tie breaks in a couple of those sets. But in the end, it's like, what does that show up on as the record? One win for Medvedev, one loss for Sinner.
exactly. Can you like that's it's just a Medvedev Sinner in the quarters, and then you have Musetti in the semis, just cruising along through his draw. Djokovic cruising through his draw.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of Musetti, that was my pick for match of the week was him versus Fritz. I mean, it was a tough choice. I think Medvedev Sinner was the best match. I think that stands apart. But if we're going second best match of the week, I went with this one because it was the closest match, and I felt like a lot of the other ones were pretty one sided. Medvedev Alcaraz almost picked that, even though it was only 4 sets, just because like after that first set, it felt like Medvedev had a chance, but then after it kind of got into the second set, you kind of realized, oh, he actually doesn't. Because if you actually watch that first set, Alcaraz was so wild. He was missing so many what feel like easy shots that he usually makes, and Medvedev barely won it. And then as soon as Alcaraz kind of locked in, it was over for him. But it was a close match, and it gave some good intense moments here for Fritz Musetti. The biggest thing, like I was mentioning earlier, was like I was wondering about that fourth set because do you think it's a strategy players employ where if they're up 2-1 and they realize, okay, this guy's bringing more energy in this fourth set, should I just shut it down and expect a fifth set and bring more energy in the fifth? Or is it better to try and end it and push as hard as they can in that fourth set? I feel like it's a gamble you have to take because Fritz has to put everything on the line in that fourth set because he has a back against the wall, and Musetti doesn't. So I wonder how that kind of plays into the mindset.
Yeah, I mean, how about if you look into your mindset? Like, have you ever thought about doing that by like in any match? Have you ever been in that scenario? I feel like it is part of human nature to like at least exercise that possibility. Like at
Yeah,
least think about it.
the difference is like I've never played in a Grand Slam, so I've never been in a fourth
Mhm.
set where you're already 2.5 hours into a match and you have to be like, okay, do I balance the amount of energy I put in here because I'm gonna have to play for another 35 minutes?
Yeah, it's it's something to think about. I can't really give you an answer.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to talk to someone who's done it. Maybe Query could
Yeah,
give us an answer there.
yeah, exactly. It's a great one. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.